guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. I have the beautiful California sun setting behind me, so it might be really, really bright. I tried my best to get the sun glare out of the lens, so we'll see what happens. It's been a while since I recorded anything, so welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited to be back in the saddle. All the stuff we've been putting out recently is stuff that I had previously recorded that we were kind of trickling out because I was unable to film for a while. So now I'm back. I'm filming again. I'm really excited. I got lots of content planned. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. If you are subscribed already, thank you so much. It really is a huge help. I know I say that every time. It's true every time. Yay! You could like the video. You could comment on the video. The comments really help with the algorithm. I've got my new facial hairstyle going on. I'm calling it Mastodon Roadie. I don't know if there are any metal fans out there. I'm a big Deftones fan, and I'm actually wearing a Deftones t-shirt right now. I don't know if you can see, but you know, Chino Moreno, since I was in high school, has had the style of like the goatee, the hair, the sideburns, and I was getting sick of my beard, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do like the Chino thing. And not being as cool as Chino, I feel like I just look like an extra on Sons of Anarchy, or like a rejected fourth musketeer or fifth musketeer. Anyway, so what am I here to talk about today? Shaolin Men. So this is not a review of the Blu-ray. Blu-ray review will be coming very, very soon. I promise you. I'm still just finishing up the bonus features on this release. This is the 88 Films release of this. I had never seen this movie before I watched this, and I think I was kind of open about that on the channel. And so this was a first-time viewing for me, and I thought, okay, well, I should share my thoughts. And then if there are people out there who have never seen the film, then they'll have a chance to kind of understand what it's about. Maybe they can determine whether or not they want to check it out. And if there are people who have seen the film before, you can like revisit it through my first-time experience of checking out this movie. So this was released in 1976. It stars Jackie Chan. It was directed by Chen Chi-hua, I believe his name is. And I think it was like maybe his third movie as director. So he was a very young, very new director. And Jackie was kind of a new star at that time. And you can kind of see them really clicking. It's like an odd thing to say, obviously, because I wasn't on set and like I don't really know what happened. But like you can kind of feel this sense of like them playing off one another and experimenting with stuff. And like the film has a really interesting style, which is unlike the visual style of any of the other 70s Jackie Chan movies really that I've seen. I try to be very open about the fact that I have not seen every 70s Jackie Chan movie, but the ones I have seen, which are like Fearless Hyena, New Fist of Fury, obviously Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, Drunken Master, I know I've seen Magnificent Bodyguards. This movie has this kind of like it's exciting in a cinematic way. There's like handheld camera, and there's like odd pans, and there's like very radically different lenses used in different scenes, and like it has this sense of like engaging with the form of cinema and trying to find new ways to tell stories and throwing everything out there to see what works, and like lots of moving camera, but then in other scenes it'll be static shots, and like it's very like in love with the form of cinema, and that's really, really cool for me to see, because one of the things I love about movies is the form of cinema. For me, it's not just about what are the fight scenes, what are the stunt scenes, what's the plot. Like, it's about the form itself, which I have talked about a lot on this channel, so hopefully you know that by now. So the form here is just really exciting. So what is this movie about? Jackie Chan plays a guy who's mute, and he is at the Shaolin Temple, and he is learning, but he's not as advanced as a lot of his peers, and he has this kind of dark past. And he ends up kind of taking on these different mentor figures throughout the movie who help him understand who he is, learn Kung Fu, and confront his dark past. And so honestly, the first thing that this movie reminded me of, I have 3 reference points for this to give you. The very first thing it reminded me of is Stranger Things. I know that sounds weird, but bear with me here. And I should also say, before I get balls deep into this review, that I loved this movie. Like, I love this movie. I cannot overstate. Like, if you ask me right now, point blank, like, what are your favorite 70s Kung Fu movies? Like, Shaw Brothers, Bruce Lee, any of them? I would put this on my top 10. Like, it's so good because it's so well made. There's so much subtlety and intelligence to the storytelling. The formal aspects are great. The fights are amazing. And, it's just like a really, really good, like I would say this is a better movie than something like Snake and the Eagle's Shadow. Now, obviously Snake and the Eagle's Shadow has probably has better fights, right? and it has a more unique style in terms of who Jackie Chan is and his personality and the kung fu comedy and stuff like that. But purely in terms of filmmaking, if I'm taking off my I'm a Jackie Chan fan hat and I'm putting on my I love cinema hat, I think this is a better movie than most of his 70s movies. Like, this is a really good movie. So let me get into it. You see him taking on these mentor figures. And, okay, so I said Stranger Things, right? The trajectory of 11 from the beginning of the first season, and I'm talking about Stranger Things season 1 and 2. Beginning of the first season, she has this childhood trauma, but she's someone who has tremendous potential and power, and she meets like Mike and the kids, the kid gang, and then she meets Hopper, and then when she goes to Chicago in season 2 and she meets the other woman who has abilities like her, and that whole gang. And then obviously you have the Papa, the Matthew Modine character, and all of these characters are exerting influence on her and are trying to, and she's understanding the world through the filters of all these things that people are teaching her while overcoming her trauma and coming to terms with her power, right? This movie is very much like that. And like Stranger Things, right, you have that whole thing where she goes to those people in Chicago and they want her to kill someone, right? And through she really confronts the darkness of her past and the idea of revenge, and through doing that, she unlocks her greatest powers. So even though this is a character who decides to take a path of righteousness and goodness and to stick up for her friends and to try to help them, had she not gone down that dark path and explored the pain of her past and her desire to get revenge and that extreme darkness, she would not have become powerful enough to do the things that she does at the end of season 2, right? Which is closing the gate and stuff. It's a very similar thing here, where you have this character who has all these mentors, and one of them is very, very dark and violent, but teaches him things, the Jackie Chan character, without which he would not be able to triumph in the end and overcome the pain of his past. And you also have this thing that, like you have in Stranger Things, where the spiritual growth of the character mirrors the physical journey of the character. So speaking of that, the other two things this reminded me of are A New Hope, right? Because this is very similar to A New Hope, because you have this central character who's kind of naive, who has this tremendous unlocked power, who has past trauma that relates to his father, who then discovers new things through mentor figures that help him overcome that past trauma, right? It's like a very similar trajectory to A New Hope and even kind of like Empire and Jedi, right? The other thing it reminds me of, like I said, is Kung Fu Panda, because in the Kung Fu Panda movies, he cannot triumph until he understands things about himself, right? And this is something I actually talked about in my interview with Rick Myers. Well, Rick Myers talked about it extensively. I didn't talk about it as much. The internal versus external aspects of Kung Fu. And that's what's so interesting about this movie, is that the mentors that he has are not just people who teach him physical aspects of martial arts. There are people who teach him about life and about philosophy and about, you know, inner peace versus violence and revenge, and the energy of the universe and the harmony with the things around you, and how you become powerful and how you use that power and what that power is for. And there are tremendous subtleties in this movie to, like, master pupil relationships. Like, there's one point where something very bad happens, and the master of the Shaolin Temple and the other people around the Shaolin Temple, like his disciples and the other people who work there and like former masters and stuff, they have taken responsibility for this bad thing because the person who does it was trained by them. And so there's this really, which you also see this in Kung Fu Panda. So I have to tell you, I've watched the Kung Fu Panda movies a buttload of times because my kids are, my older son especially is like obsessed with them recently, right? He got them for Christmas, and we've been watching them like over and over and over again, the way the kids do with movies. And there's this really interesting thing in the Kung Fu Panda movies where they're not just looking at the pupil, they're looking at the teacher, and how the teacher is a work in progress, the master is a work in progress as much as the student, and that growth is never done, and that learning is never over, and that everyone should be humble and express humility, right? And this is very different from the classic Jackie Chan, like, I'm an arrogant bastard, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, which you see in Dragon Lord and Fearless Hyena in these movies. But then, of course, he's brought back down to earth, right, by like a master or, you know, a mentor or someone like that. In this movie, he starts as a broken person, and then he heals and becomes a complete person. And in that process, has a physical adventure and journey through martial arts and revenge and things like that that mirrors that growth as a human being. And it's just like, I really can't say enough good things about it. It's so well done. The storytelling, the formal aspects, the fight scenes are so good. The acting is really incredible. The other thing I want to mention is the locations in this movie are so good. There's like this hidden cave that's like, you gotta walk through this waterfall to get there, and there's like these beautiful old temples, and I don't know where they filmed this. It could have been in Taiwan, it could have been in Korea. I know that they used to film in those two places. I really don't know where this was shot, but it's just beautiful. Like these big old stone steps that come up from this beautiful river that you see the characters walking up and down, and with the presentation that is on this Blu-ray release, which I believe is a 2K remaster. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it was a really amazing. Like, this movie, probably more than any other movie I have watched for this channel, especially Jackie Chan, really, like, I was blown away. Like, this movie is so good. The only other one I think maybe that rivals it is The Master, which is that, that had like the Jet Li film, really had a reputation of being like a trashy, crappy, wasted project that like they only kind of released because of Jet Li's later fame, and I really enjoyed that movie. This is just a really good movie, and I think that because it doesn't have, first of all, Jackie Chan is mute for most of the movie, which is really weird. Right? He's really good in this movie, but it's weird because that's like the anti-Jackie Chan of like not talking, right? Usually he's just like me, with like the jokes and the silliness and the facial expressions, right? So to have him play this character who's really internalized and really intense and really broken is very odd. And this is much more of like a archetypal, almost Hollywood narrative, even though you do see a lot of kung fu movies like this, right? With the character who has to get revenge and goes for all this growth, and like, Executioners from Shaolin is like that. Clan of the White Lotus is like that. Eight Diagram Pole Fight. Like, there's so many movies like that. But this one, especially with the structure of it, really reminds me of those Hollywood things I mentioned. I can see why people might not like this movie as much as they like a lot of those other 70s Jackie movies, but I really can't emphasize enough how much I love this movie. Go and see it. Get the 88 Films release. Find it however you can. Watch it. I will be reviewing the Blu-ray. It's a great Blu-ray. If you collect physical media, if you have a Region B player, if you live in Region B where you can watch this, definitely get it. I'm going to be talking about the audio commentary tracks and all the other bonus stuff on there. I've watched most of it. I'm just not done with the second audio commentary. I'm pretty sure there's 2 audio commentaries on here. And so I made it through one of them, and I got to watch the other one. So just really great movie. Check it out. My name is Will. The film is Shaolin Men, released in 1976, starring Jackie Chan, directed by Chen Chi-hua. I'm going to check my notes to make sure I got the director's name right. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.